if you've ever dealt with a difficult situation, something where it's traumatic, and there were some definite injuries to some of our beloved friends, you're going to enjoy this show. I'll tell you how to deal with this a little bit. Stay tuned. Welcome to Your Little Castle Show, where we highlight those leaders that are helping us to make it through on this little planet, where there's a lot that we all have to. Personally, a lot of people do. I talk about my story a little bit. I was hit by a drunk driver, was in a coma. You see the little scar on my head up here. My dad said, "You got to see the other guy." But traumatic situation. But there was a definite carnage, if you will, or how do you say that? But my dad ended up taking pictures of the car and the blood that was on the scene. It's part of our little clip that we play where Paul Brown said, "Carter, you got to share with why you do this. We're going to play the clip every show." So we do that with a little break in between. But how many of us are, at some point, it seems like everybody, hopefully not traumatic, but we're going to all deal with loss, with death. Mm-hmm. And what happens after that, and how do you deal with it, especially if there was a situation where there was an accident or something like that. So with that, we've got Amanda and Megan sticking around here for a second half hour to help us understand more about this. I've got more questions here that we want to kind of go over the details with this and understand more about it. With that, we talked a little bit about mistakes that are made by people who go through this situation, and very often there's some people who would like to handle this cleanup themselves. Number one, emotionally, that's something that's just traumatic and could leave a dramatic impact on someone. But just from a cleanliness or a biohazard position, Amanda, you talked about it, where there's a matter of they think it's cleaned,
correct?
They think it's been
Decontaminated,
contaminated, right? But not necessarily true if they don't have the proper means to do so. What are some of the mistakes people make there when they leave behind and causes problems?
So a lot of times when they leave behind something, it can get under hardwood flooring. To the naked eye, everything might look clean and safe and sanitary, but over time there could be potential odors because it wasn't done properly. Items should have been removed that weren't, and when also there's a lot of cross-contamination when people try to clean these scenes themselves. So they're walking through the scene, they're walking in other rooms, they're getting in their vehicles, they're coming back. So ultimately, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're the professionals. Just give us a call.
Yes, because you think that there's something you've cleaned properly, unless you've got expertise in this area. I mean, wiping it down with some water and bleach or whatever,
right.
But there's just, and then you got to know where to look. You're saying 80% of the time you're pulling up flooring.
Correct.
For people
Yes, vents, flooring.
Vents. Okay. Yes. And it ends up being more to it than, and why would you get you some experts in here? bio1stl.com. Amanda and Megan will help you with that. There's obviously some instances where this happens at a business or commercial level, and you've got to help similar things. It could be more traumatic and more apparent to the public.
Absolutely.
How often is this the case, and you've had to deal with some commercial?
We've had calls at manufacturing plants, warehouses, someone cuts a finger, or even something bigger than that.
Right.
We even do things that aren't related to death cleanup. Like we had a fish market a couple summers ago that we had to completely remove rotten fish from, and that took us about 5 weeks to do. A lot of skid loaders and a lot of treatment. So we do anything that's that could be considered biohazard. We handle.
Okay. Yeah, because there's not just what we all have personally. I guess situation when an accident happens on the highway, it's not commercial, but it's definitely out there in the public. And anyway, to deal with all of that, you ladies make sure that people properly deal with this. This is a difficult situation for everybody. What do you like about, you're in the St. Louis markets primarily, you're also middle Missouri, Columbia, down to
Lake
of the Ozarks. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine there's some boat accidents that might be something to be involved. But what do you like about the areas that you work in, and especially being based in core here in St. Louis and St. Charles?
One thing I know we love about the St. Louis area is everyone knows everybody.
Okay,
And we definitely have a really awesome community where we know everybody. We know, if you don't know how to do something, you know somebody who knows how to do it. And so, I mean, everyone just networks in St. Louis, and it's just really friendly people and people that want to get out there and get involved in the community. And there's a lot of that in St. Louis. Something happens to one of our natives, the whole community gathers together.
Amanda, have you found this to be true too?
Absolutely. It's definitely a community feel. People are very helpful. I don't know, I just like what Megan said, everyone knows everyone and always there to help. And I love that.
Yeah, St. Louis is the biggest town in the country, a lot of people say.
Yes.
But literally everybody
Yes.
knows everybody. Everybody asks that question, what high school did you go to? My girlfriend actually is from Chicago, so she'd be like, I went to, and I know the name of it, I can't think of it off the top. They'll be like, I've never heard of that one. Well, it's in Chicago. But yeah, she's assimilated here, and she does notice that there's so many people in St. Louis. Chicago's a very big city, but here everybody does kind of know everybody. And so I like what you said there, because there'll be a lot of people who say, hey, we got a particular situation here, who knows somebody? And there's always going to be somebody who knows somebody that can help you. In our community, we're pretty tight-knit here, and word does not travel. It's like 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon. Here it's like 3 degrees, right? 3 steps, where somebody knows somebody who's can get to the person that needs to be involved to make sure these things are handled properly. Tell me then, I can only imagine there's been a number of times where there's been a particular situation where you really had to help a family or a group of people that were going through the situation. Tell me a little bit about a time where without naming names, of course, but where somebody was in a difficult situation and you really had to kind of console them and walk them through this. Might be every time you deal with it.
I hate that these things happen, but I'm glad that they call us, because we really do hold their hand and be any type of comfort or any type of support that they need, whether it's a little amount or the fullest. Basically, any call we get involving a death, it's what it is. It's helping a family that's dealing with a loss and trying to just walk them through the whole process.
Yeah, we talked about both of you are involved, have an extensive history with the police. Some of the consultative training that you've had there to help you to deal with this, because this is a difficult situation. There's nobody who's going to go through this and going, oh, that was nothing. No, it didn't impact me at all. But you're there to be able to console them, and this happens literally probably like I said, on every case. There's something like this where you've got to be consultative and say, hey, let me walk you through and why and how this goes and what happens next and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm having some reflection back on what I went through and going to a coma, and it's just all of that. But it just seems as everyone's going to go through some kind of a difficult situation at some point in their life. Hopefully you have the right professionals like yourselves to help them get through it.
We were helping people many times on the worst day of their life. And I try to remind our technicians that, and we remind ourselves that we could be having a bad day, but this is their worst day. So we really do just put aside what we're dealing with, if we are dealing with anything, and focus on the family.
Well said, because there is so much that as a highly intensive traumatic situation, it will be difficult for anyone going through this unless they've got expert training and history that you ladies both bring to the table. What's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome as a business owner in this space? This is something that, is it dealing with this trauma on a daily basis? And what is it that you found as a big challenge, but it's obviously made you stronger? Man, I'll start with you on that one.
I would say one of the biggest challenges for me personally is when these situations include children. And, it makes you go home and love your little ones even harder. So for me, it's when it involves children and being there for, their family in that worst time. And that's probably been the most challenging for me in the past 10 years.
I could definitely understand that. Yeah. Anytime children are involved with this, they don't understand at all what's going on. It's just next thing you know, the person that they are very close to, whether it be a parent or a sibling, is not there any longer. I'll never forget, my sister was walking me out of the hospital into the foyer out of my room, and she was pretty struck because it was, I'm her only brother, she's my only sister, and we have our emergency alerts going on, but yeah, there's a lot that people deal with that, especially in those kind of situations for kids, it's going to be very tough. And you obviously have got many years experience and can help in that particular situation as well. Megan, same Similar, you.
Of course, anytime an incident involves a child, whether the child's the victim or a child is there dealing with the loss, it's extremely hard. And animals too, because dogs and animals, they don't know what's going on.
Right.
But on a business aspect or business point of it, it was hard for Amanda and I at first to get used to, the slow periods, because this type of work gets busier in the warmer, like I said before, in the warmer months. So it's just, you have to know how to budget and be able to find work for our employees in the slower months, so that way we retain them. Find trainings, find things to do on our trucks, maybe refit a truck. We always try to find things for them to do so we can keep them on payroll.
Yeah, wow, yeah, because there's a lot that goes into dealing with any kind of situation that involves this kind of trauma, and especially when you've seen blood and other bodily injuries, very traumatic for a lot of people. And so with your years of expertise, you can help most people deal with this in a better fashion. And it's just, again, I can't imagine why anyone would ever want to take this on their own by themselves without having some kind of expertise. And so that's what you're bringing to the table here. And how often is it the time, is there ever a time when there's not some dramatic emotions involved, or is it just to what level those emotions are involved?
Sometimes we do have clients where, they weren't very attached to their loved one, they were estranged, so it's not so emotional, but it's very few and far in between.
Yeah, and very often it's just traumatic. Amanda, you've seen this too.
Yeah, well, as far as when we do like drug remediations and things of that nature, it's a lot less heightened. We're just there to, decontaminate or neutralize a drug, so it's safe for people to go back into the home or the business or whatever space it may be. As far as feelings, I would say that's probably the least amount of trauma, so to speak, that we have to deal with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it's just you got the gamut. You got it from the lesser intense, but to those that are very close, and especially when kids and pets and the mommy type of situation you see and been through that. With that, we're going to share a little bit more. We've got somebody these young ladies know about, Will Be Inspired, who helps with PTSD and the related areas with regard to suicide, and our police and fire and those who are involved that help us get through those situations. Stay tuned. We'll be back. Will Bates, everybody. Will Be Inspired. Tell me about the event you got going on here.
Oh, we got a golf tournament today. Got some people coming out to support our military veterans and first responders. Everything that we raise today goes towards benefiting them, mental and physical health, overall wellness, wellness retreats, outdoor retreats, gym memberships. You think of it, you name it. That's what we do. So this is all to benefit them. I appreciate everybody coming out and taking action. Thank you.
We're at Old Hickory Golf Course. Been here for a number of events. Great crowd here.
Yep.
How many people turn out for this thing so far?
There'll be at least 170 people here.
170 golfers, everybody. All right, if they need the Cardinal Cowboy to give out some free golf lessons, I might be doing that later. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Get up. We'll see you guys. Get up. Will Bates, everybody. Will Be Inspired. Tell me about the event.
His name is Carter Rethwich, but in St. Louis, he's known as the Cardinal Cowboy. He's a well-known fixture in the stands at sporting events in the Gateway City. He's one of its greatest cheerleaders, a super fan like no other. When he makes his rounds at almost every home game, he shares his love for sports with the rest of fandom with a smile, a cheer, some positive encouragement, and lots and lots of selfies and pics. But the Cardinal Cowboy was born of a tragic incident. Rethwich was an aspiring athlete in high school and college. He dreamed of playing in the big leagues, but those dreams ended when he and 3 of his college friends were hit with a devastating crash by a 5-time drunk driver. One of his best friends died. Carter suffered a critical head injury. The trauma put him in a coma for 6 days. The doctors said he was never expected to function again. Those expectations never came true. He fought back and finished college. He was determined to prove the doctors wrong. Among other inspirations, it was his love of baseball that kept him going. And from his near-death experience, the Cardinal Cowboy emerged. His goal in life became to inspire others with positivity despite the odds, to help people believe in themselves and achieve their dreams.
So after my coma, I realized that it was up to me if I was going to accomplish my goals, if I was going to reach my dreams. Despite what the naysayers would say, the people that were discouraging me, like they do everyone, it's up to me if I'm going to make it. Don't listen to the naysayers. It's up to you. You decide whether you're going to succeed, whether you're going to reach your goals. Dream, and then always, always chase your dreams. Never give up. Giddy up. By now, we are on ABC 5 times a week. So many businesses are loving what we're doing to help them get their name out there. We'll sit right here in our guest chair, right here, sitting here talking to us. We're going to put on the wall your website and everything about you, and highlight you as a leader. Fill out the form you see here on our website. It's bigleagues.com, and if you go to bigleagues.com, fill out this form. Takes just a couple seconds, and you can even schedule yourself right here. Schedule yourself to be on the show, and there's no charge for us to record you. There's no charge to be in the studio. Check it out if you would like to be on. Fill out the form again, bigleagues.com. This is where we can turn any interview into a series of clips. Professional video on your website closes more sales by instantly building trust, clearly explaining complex products, and keeping visitors engaged longer, reducing bounce rate by 34%. It'll help you to gain that credibility, increase engagement, simplify complex tasks, lower your sales friction, and boost your rankings on the search engine. So this is all kind of a no-brainer. See how we've now had over 500 interviews and now almost 250 different business owners. Go to bigleagues.com. That's bigleagues.com. Go to bigleagues.com and get signed up. You can schedule right from there. So there you have it, everybody. And like we said, Will and a group there, and we share that video of my story a little bit so people understand why do we do this. Otherwise, there's people like, what's this about? But once you see that, hopefully it helps people understand. We're all on this little planet together, and we've got to make it happen and bring in great leaders in our community, those who are really making an impact and helping other people. So with that, we talk about how the media needs to be magnetized. You want people to be attracted to your, and magnified, I'll say in there too, but I wrote the foreword here. This is the book called Magnetized Media, and they said, Cardi, you essentially wrote the first chapter. I said, yeah, well, that's why you brought me in here, and I've just been working on related, how do you get the attention of the people you're trying to get the attention of, and you've just got to be able to get out in front of people and do what you need to do. Be knowledgeable, be informed, and then spread the word, share it. So that's what we do. That's what the show is all about too. But with that, how has technology changed the way we were talking about? These ladies look like they're in their 20s, but they have been around. They do remember AOL, right?
Yes.
If we talked about AOL, America Online. I can't get my mom off of her AOL email account, even though I've got her at Gmail. But how has technology evolved and changed? And you've been doing this for 10 years. Even in the last 10 years, how much more technology stuff related, websites, social media, and all that?
It's dramatically helped before we were talking about how a lot of people didn't even know there were companies out here that did this kind of work. So technology has made people aware, whether it's TikTok or just websites or what have you, social media. So we get a lot of calls from Google because someone's in a desperate situation. They just Google blood cleanup and we pop up, and they wouldn't, if they weren't getting a referral from a police officer or for the coroner or from a friend, that's how they search for us.
Yeah, that's the way you do it these days. Mm-hmm. Amanda, you've seen the impact here. It's the way people find you.
Absolutely. Google's been huge for us, and then also, the Google reviews and the rankings and helping make sure we're popping up first so people see us and they're aware. Most definitely.
How has technology changed the way you do your work now? So you've got different methods that, I know the guys that use electric laser pointers now instead of getting out the tape measure. What are some of the impacts of technology you guys have seen?
Yes, well, like you said, the laser pointers, and now we're finding ourselves coming across different softwares that can help us do our work versus just using a pen and paper and and, and an old school calendar.
Right.
So we try to embrace technology and how the society is moving forward with that, but we also are a little old school as well. I feel like we're a good mix.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Definitely a good mix.
Yeah, well, there's so much. It's just a matter. There's a lot to be said for just getting down there and getting to the scene or getting to the incident and seeing it personally, but also documenting. I can imagine a lot of people. You deal a lot with cell phones, smartphones, pictures.
Yes.
That and sometimes people will send videos about here's the oversee, and it helps you to evaluate things too.
100%. When we deal with insurance companies, we have to heavily document what we do and why we did it. That way, they can fully help the client rebuild the house.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of reasons that people might need to have some structural work done in their home, but this is the time when and the insurance company's going to say, was that part of this, or how did that happen, or what happened to that? You never know when there's a traumatic situation that can impact a lot of people. We talked a little bit about mistakes that the average consumer makes, but how often is it the time when there are other businesses out there, without naming their names, of course, where they make mistakes and you've seen them handle this incorrectly? Maybe it's not the area of specialty, that it just might be a cleaning company per se, and they don't understand the biohazard related stuff. Tell me how that impacts what you do.
Sure. And there's also companies that take it to the extreme, and they try to tell consumers that they need to remediate their entire home when an incident happened in their bathroom. They try to price gouge. They try to make more money off of these unfortunate people going through horrific time in their life. And first of all, the insurance company won't cover that. They're only going to cover the event that happened, but they're trying to get them to take their house down to their studs. I would say that's a huge mistake that there's some companies attempt to do.
Okay, yeah, they're saying here's an opportunity to capitalize on somebody else's loss. It's pretty sad, but that's what you see. Yeah, but hey, how can we make some money here? In a horrible time for somebody's life. Not good.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we don't like to see that. Watch out for that. When somebody's telling you that, call Amanda or Megan here at Bio1. 314-534 is 8031. It's on their website too, bio1stl.com. Lots of great information that they have for you to make sure that you don't make those mistakes. Well, tell me the process. How does somebody get started with you guys? What is the process they go through?
Our technicians or a client?
A client.
A client. So typically it just takes that first phone call. They call us. We go through our whole process, depending on what it is that they're needing. Because a lot of times people call us and say, I need a cleanup. Well, we do lots of cleanups. Well, what do you have going on in your home or your business? So once we figure out what their need is, then we move forward in getting them on our schedule, talking about pricing if that's something they do want to talk about, finding out if insurance will cover. We can do that for them as well. And then we just naturally go along with the process.
Yeah, so there's a method here, but to get a hold of you first, and you kind of have to evaluate every situation separately, right? And figure out what exactly was it that happened, because they range from...
Is it an emergency? Do we need to respond right now? Something you want to schedule for tomorrow, or is it something that can wait where you're getting on our schedule in a week or 2 weeks?
Okay. Man, how often are you involved with that scheduling process? You see this go through, and what do you do?
Yeah, so...
To make sure...
Yeah, the initial phone call, and a lot of times it is, okay, I need you right now. But we do those other things such as hoarding, and we do need pictures, or we send a technician out. We do free estimates, so they'll go out, they'll gather everything we need. We work up, how long it's going to take, and then we schedule, get them on our schedule for our crew to take care of.
And what does the normal cleanup take? I mean, sometimes these take. You talked about one that was 5 weeks, but many times it's something that can be done in a day or two.
Of course,
but
no job too big or no job too small.
Yeah, but it often ends up being something that you got to be very sensitive to the surrounding areas and the related. You're inside somebody's home here, but it can be done. I guess it all depends on the particular situation. If there was a gunshot.
If it's a trauma scene like a death, typically we get that done in 1 day.
Okay.
Hoarding usually 2 to 3 days, but then we have longer ones that last weeks.
Okay. Yeah, and something that obviously you don't want to cut any corners to make sure this is done correctly. Absolutely. You'll spend the time necessary to get, especially when there's bodily fluids and blood and other things like that. You've got to remediate that. I like your term, remediate, to make sure that this is cleaned up properly so that there's not any repercussions later. They're going, what was this here? Did we buy this house and we didn't realize? And those are things that people obviously deal with. What's the biggest question people have for you before you get started? Where they say, well, I could just do it myself, or why? What are people normally asking you before they get started?
Usually when someone's calling us for a death cleanup, they spent a lot of time looking at our website and then just speaking with us over the phone and just telling us what happened. They just want us out there most of the time. Sometimes, I'm on the phone with people for over an hour and we're just being two humans talking about what's going on. And that's why I think, and I do so well, is because we don't come across cold and, extremely just professional. We are professional, but you can also tell that we care.
Yeah, given that background that both of you have with the police training and everything, Amanda, your training has really comes through here. You're dealing with people in an emotional time, helping them get through this.
Definitely. I think a big part of it is to listen, not be pushy. If they have more questions, listen and answer them. Obviously, we want to help them, but if they're not ready, we can't, force that to happen. It has to be in their time.
Yes. This is like, if we talk about it, there's different times for different things in our lives, and this is an emotional time for anybody who's going through this. This is not something you want to ever rush anything to get through. You want to make sure and take care of it and deal with it properly when they're going through an emotional event. But when it comes down to it, what gives you the most satisfaction about what you've done to be able to help a family get through the situation?
Just helping them in the hardest time, possibly the hardest time in their life, knowing that we were just a small portion of the event. We did traumatically help them, like in a good way. We'll get cards,
Really?
weeks later. We were just dropping off our truck to get service the other day, and someone came up to Amanda and saw our license plate and said, you don't know me, but you guys helped me when it was his father-in-law passed away. He goes, I just want to shake your hand and say thank you so it's like, that is what is so rewarding, is when we get the people that just say, man, you really helped us out, even though I only met you for a short time, or only had a phone conversation with you and only met your technicians for 8 hours, or whatever the case may be. You made a huge impact in our lives.
Wow. You're seeing the same thing, Amanda?
Yes, it is very heartfelt and kind of takes you back in why we started doing this. It's those moments. It was a year and a half prior to when he came over. Prior to this, when we helped them, just it kind of brings you back to why you started doing this, and you get that heartfelt feeling of, okay, I touched his life so much, and it was 2 years ago. I don't know. It's kind of indescribable, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the emotions that are involved here are intense. Bio One, everyone. We clean tough situations. Bio1stl.com. You're watching Your Little Castle Show. Stay tuned. Giddy up.